Chandramauli Swami Maharaj. So we'd like to give a brief introduction of Maharaj. Maharaj, born in New Jersey, USA in 1947, he came in contact with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in Denver, Colorado at the age of 24. In 1973, he began practicing Krishna consciousness in New York City, and shortly after that began serving at the New Vrindavan Farm Community in West Virginia. He received initiation from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in 1973. At that time in New Vrindavan, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was also he was serving, and they are both very, very thick friends. The intimacy of both of them actually is a great inspiration for all of us. So by his kind mercy, Maharaj he graces us and at Chapati very regularly, and thus we get a very special association of Maharaj. In 1986, he accepted the sannyas order and began preaching in Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio. In the early 1990s, he became involved with the ISKCON prison ministries in America, and he began visiting inmates, holding programs along with writing letters to inmates and sending Srila Prabhupada books. So he has transformed the lives of many, many people who are in the prisons. We are all in the prison, but Maharaj actually touched the lives of people who are in a difficult situation at the prison and transformed their lives to become beautiful Vaishnavas for Krishna. Maharaj has also written a book on that. 2 books on that. His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj is now the leader of the ISKCON prison ministry and has worked tirelessly to document the spiritual progression of the worldwide inmate community. His dedication to the welfare, growth and sustainable rehabilitation of these prisoners has culminated in the book Holy Jail, a touching compilation of the activities of the ISKCON prison ministry. In over 30 years...
It's over there, the books are over there.
Yes, so we have these books here. After the class, you can take advantage, have a personal copy, and that will help you to see the power of Krishna consciousness in the life of just everyone. It's the universal program to help everyone. And Maharaj's special ecstasies in the preaching. In over the last 30 years of operation, the lives of hundreds of inmates have changed due to the practice of Krishna consciousness and the support received by the devotees. In 1995, he began serving as a resident sannyasi at Chicago, where he is based today. At present, Srila Chandramauli Swami Maharaj preaches in America, India, Western Europe, Slovenia, Croatia, Italy and the UK. He is an initiating spiritual master within the ISKCON society. Actually, I am very short. His guest Radha Shampu had he been here. Prabhuji is there at GEV because His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj called him. Otherwise, Radha Shampu would have given a 20-minute introduction because Maharaj has made a place in all of our hearts by so much of his special spiritual realizations and also his special kindness upon all of us at Pune. So we like to heartily welcome His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj to this youth camp and also Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Mandir by loudly chanting the HareKrishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj ki jai. One more thing, actually Maharaj has written some books on the Varnashram program that Srila Prabhupada very much wanted to enable. So Maharaj has written a book on that also, because it's a very important thing for making the world sustainable. Forget about taking them ahead, actually they cannot sustain. So Maharaj has written a very beautiful book of a Krishna conscious Varnashram program, so you can take advantage of that also.
Srila Prabhupada Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhana Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhana Sauranandana Bhaja Jananjana Sauranandana Bhaja Jananjana Yamuna Tira Chahaya Jamuna Thira Chahaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhana Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhana Sodanandana Braja Janandra Hey Sodanandana Braja Janandra Hey Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna By George Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Tagore. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Tagore. Tagore, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Tagore, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Aya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Om Gyan Timidandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shimakte Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Evasesa Sunyavadhi Paschatya Des Vancha Kalpa Taruvesya Kriva Sindhu Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhakt Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Gaura Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we were instructed to discuss the 9 angas, or 9 limbs of bhakti. And there's a beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, entitled Prahlad, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu. And this is 2 verses together. So what we'll do, the translation is long, and also the purport is exceedingly long. So we'll take part of the purport and we'll chant the Sanskrit. Shri Parada Uvacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atman Nivedanam Iti Pusarpitam Vishnu Bhaktis Chena Valakshana Kriyate Bhagavadya Adya Tanmanye Diti Uttamam. Chant. In Sanskrit, when there is AU at the end of the word, it is O. So it's Iti Pusar Pitam Vishnu. Vishnu, not Vishnu. Okay, anyone else? Vishnu Bhakti Navalakshana Any ladies? Lady? Vishnu Sri Parada Uvacha. Prahlad Maharaj said, Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu, not anyone else. Smarnam, remembering, Padasevanam, serving the feet, Archanam, offering worship, with Sada Asopachara, the 16 kinds of paraphernalia. Vadanam, offering prayers. Dasyam, becoming the servant. Sakyam, becoming the best friend. Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything, whatever one has. Iti, thus, pumsam arpita, offered by the devotee, Vishnu, unto Lord Vishnu, not to anyone else. Bhakti, devotional service. Chet, if. Navalakshana, possessing 9 different processes. Kriyata, one should perform. Bhagavati, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adhyam, directly or completely. Tat, that. Manye, I consider. Aditam, learning. Uttamam, topmost. Translation. It's a little long, so please listen up. Prahlad Maharaj said, okay, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities and paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming His servant, considering the Lord's one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto Him. In other words, serving Him with body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So, there is a 2 or 3 page preliminary discussion of this topic, and then each of the 9 processes are mentioned one by one. So for the sake of time, I'm going to go right into the 9 processes, which we'll mention today. We'll do the Shravanam. Okay, so Shravanam will be the one. Hearing of the holy name of the Lord, Shravanam, is the beginning of devotional service. Although any one of the 9 processes is sufficient in chronological order, the hearing of the holy name of the Lord is the beginning. Indeed, it is essential, as enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaito Dharpanam Marjanam. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is cleansed of all material conception of life, which is due to the dirty modes of material nature. When the dirt is cleansed from the core of one's heart, one can realize the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Thus, the hearing of the holy name of the Lord, one comes to the platform of understanding the personal form of the Lord. After realizing the Lord's form, one can realize the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and when one can understand His transcendental qualities, then one can understand the Lord's associates. In this way, a devotee advances further and further towards complete understanding of the Lord as he awakens in realization of the Lord's holy name, transcendental form, and qualities, His paraphernalia, and everything else pertaining to Him. Therefore, the chronological process is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. This same process of chronological understanding holds true in chanting and remembering. When the chanting of the holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes are heard from the mouth of a pure devotee, His hearing and chanting are very pleasing. Srila Sanatana Goswami has forbidden us to hear the chanting of an artificial devotee or from a non-devotee. Hearing from the text of Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the most important process of hearing. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of transcendental chanting of the holy name, and therefore the chanting and hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam are transcendental and full of mellows. The transcendental holy name of the Lord may be heard in chanting according to the attraction of the devotee. That's very important. So one may decide to hear and chant the glories of the Lord according to one particular attraction for a particular form of the Lord. Either Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Srimati Radharani, Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Ram. So one may be attracted to one particular form of the Lord, and therefore one can develop that attraction by hearing from that person that describes these particular persons that you are attracted to. But you may hear about all of them also. Okay. One may chant the holy name of Krishna. One may chant the holy name of Lord Ram or Nrsingadev. Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan. The Lord has innumerable forms and names, and devotees may meditate on a particular form and chant the holy name according to his attraction. The best course is to hear of the holy name, form, and so on from a pure devotee of the same standard as oneself. In other words, one who is attached to Krishna should chant and hear from other pure devotees who are also attached to Krishna. The same principle applies for devotees attracted to Lord Ram, Lord Nrsingadev, and other forms of the Lord, because Krishna is the ultimate form of the Lord. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. It is best to hear about Lord Krishna's name, form, and pastimes from a realized devotee who is particularly attracted by the form of Lord Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, great devotees like Sukadeva Goswami have specifically described Lord Krishna's holy name, his forms, and his qualities. Unless one hears about the holy name, form, and qualities of the Lord, one cannot clearly understand the other processes of devotional service. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that one chant the holy name of Krishna. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. If one is fortunate to hear from the mouth of a realized devotee, he is very easily becomes successful on the path of devotional service. Therefore, hearing of the holy name, form, and qualities of the Lord is essential. In the Bhagavatam 1.5.11, it mentions Tadvar Visarga Janata Vibhavom Yasmin Prati Slokam Abhavatyavapi Namami Anantasya Dyaso Kitaniyat Srinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadavaha. Which translation? Verses describing the name, form, and qualities of Anantadev, the unlimited Supreme Lord, are available to vanquish all the sinful reactions of the entire world. Therefore, even if such verses are heard or chanted improperly, composed, devotees hear them, describe them, and accept them as bona fide and being authorized. In this connection, Sridhar Swami has remarked that a pure devotee takes advantage of another pure devotee by taking to hear from him about the holy name, form, qualities of the Lord. If there is no such opportunity, he alone chants and hears the holy name of Krishna. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyanajana Salaki Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So out of the 9 processes of bhakti, this first one is mentioned as hearing. Hearing is the foundation for understanding and executing successfully all of the other 8 processes of devotional service. We hear so we can chant, we hear so we can remember, we hear so we can worship, we hear so we can offer prayers, we hear so we can understand how to serve. All of the 9 processes are developed and what we say, successful when the hearing process becomes continuous, or you might say strong. So more than any of the other 8 processes, hearing is most essential. Of course, it also mentions that chanting is required, but the quality of our chanting also depends on the quality of our hearing. So what does it mean to hear? So in the Padma Puranam, it's described that there are 3 principles which make up the process of successful hearing. What are those 3? 1 is faith and knowledge of the speaker that the speaker is qualified to speak. And Prabhupada makes this point in this particular sloka that one should not hear from people who are not connected to the process of devotional service, the non-devotees, or someone who surreptitiously, automatically just takes up the process of chanting in order to gain some followers, some prestige, some pecuniary remuneration. This type of hearing is not only not beneficial, it's poison. It's like getting, if you take milk, milk is a very nice food, but if it's touched by the lips of a serpent, it becomes poisonous. So to hear from those who are not qualified, or to present themselves as being qualified, is actually better not to hear at all. But here it's recommended one should hear from those who are qualified to speak. In other words, those who are connected with the process of pure devotional service. That is the first principle. The second is the principle of humility. It's also very essential. As we hear, we absorb. So hearing is not just because we have 2 ears, it doesn't mean we hear. Because we'll get to the next step, because that'll explain what I'm saying. The point is that one should hear in such a way that one receives the message as the message is being delivered. Not only to the sound vibration, but the quality of how that sound vibration is being delivered is also a very important part of the hearing process. Because hearing is something very much disturbed in Kali Yuga, because there's so much noise out there. Hare Krishna. And there's, you're bombarded, to use a very simple word, bombarded with all kinds of sound vibrations coming from the external environment, and even from those who are claiming to be authorized to speak. So what we do is, in order to prevent ourselves from becoming disturbed, we kind of block out these other sound vibrations, and the mind starts to shut down. So although you're hearing, or you're in the range of the sound, you don't really absorb it, you don't hear it. It's kind of like it's around you, but you're doing something else, because the mind wants to protect what it's doing, so it's on a kind of like not to get distracted. Of course, there's always some little distraction. But what happens then when you sit down to hear that knowledge, which is beneficial, you have to open up now. You have to clear those blocks out of the mind that are there from hearing sounds that are not beneficial or disturbing. So one has to learn how to absorb that sound vibration. So therefore the word is rapt, R-A-P-T. It means absorbed hearing. That hearing which is very much fixed on each of the sound vibrations that is being explained. And when you hear like that, then you later on, well, I'll explain that. But one of the ways to get to that point is called destroying the faults of the mind. So destroying the faults of the mind means the mind likes to wander. Chanchala hivana krishnam pramati balavadridha tasyaham nigamam maye vayor idam suduskaram. Arjuna speaks this verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, you're asking me to control my mind. I think it's more difficult than controlling the wind. Controlling the wind is easy. That's what he's saying. He says the mind is stubborn, obstinate, very difficult to control. Compares it to controlling the wind. And Krishna says in the next verse, he answers Arjuna, you're right. But abhyasena tu konteya vairagya chagriyate, that by practicing the hearing process, so it's not like we all become so sufficient and expert at hearing, we have to practice hearing. Hearing is an art that develops through practice. And the second point Krishna said, and stop trying to hear things that are actually not beneficial. In other words, keep the sound vibration within the context of that which is spiritual. And then, so destroying the faults of the mind means wherever the mind wanders, bring it back. It wanders. Bring it back. It'll go again. It's a rascal. Bring it back. I'm sitting here listening to Maharaj, but Prasadam's coming soon. Haribo. And I'm wondering what they have. No, so not like that. So bring back that mind wherever it goes to the sound vibration that's being spoken, and listen with rapt attention. So in Padma Purana explains these three things: humility, faith in the speaker or authorized speaker, and ultimately bringing the mind back wherever it wanders. And then there's a fourth point, which is the result of the first three when it's successfully executed. You get two things, or you get one of two things. One, you get realization of what is being said. Oh yes, I understand. Yes, this is correct. In other words, there's some realization, there's some knowledge comes based on that type of hearing. And the other one is, if you don't get that, or if you don't get enough of it, you get questions. Let me ask a question to clarify what I've heard so I know what is the actual understanding. So questions. So these two things, if you don't get questions and if you don't get realizations, that means you're sleeping. You know, you weren't there. So, of course, everybody's here. So we have to be here. And so the hearing process is a real art. And of course, when we hear transcendental sound vibration, then we're attracted to that sound. But we have to practice that more and more. So this is the success of the hearing process. And again, of course, it's important to hear those things which are beneficial. Here it says that if you have a particular type of attraction to hear about a particular subject matter, which centers around a particular incarnation of Krishna or Krishna himself, then one should hear from that person who is expert at delivering that type of knowledge based on that incarnation or that personality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So if we practice that, then we can also go deeper into that mood like that. Just like they have this thing called Bhagavad Saptaha, right? You heard of it. Or you have Ram Katha that goes on for what, two weeks or 1 month or something. So people come, and then someone will speak only Ram Lila, and that's all. And people who will get absorbed in that. Or someone will speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, pick a section of Bhagavatam and speak. Of course, I'm assuming these people are authorized, but if they're not authorized, that's a different thing. But when you get involved with continuous hearing of a subject matter, then that subject matter, you become very much, what we say, versed in that subject matter, and that becomes a focus of your Krishna consciousness. So practice this hearing process, and because hearing, good hearing, leads to quality chanting. Just like in kirtan, when we're doing kirtan, the sound vibration is in the atmosphere. But to tune into the sound vibration very carefully, then that requires some attention to the sound vibration. And when we do that and practice that more and more, then that sound vibration will inspire the response in a qualitative way. In other words, we're right there with the sound vibration. So practicing hearing is a real art. Even in ISKCON societies, there are devotees who give classes, seminars on how to hear. How to hear, how to improve our hearing process. Especially in Kali Yuga, where there's so much things that we don't want to hear. Okay. And of course, the essence is to hear about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His names, His forms. Everything about the Supreme Lord is transcendental, which means it's above the material. And what does it do? Chaito Darpanam Marjanam. Lord Chaitanya made this point that when we hear nicely what is happening, something is actually happening. I'll give you an example of how hearing extends itself in a very broad sense of the definition. Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, when he first started the movement, he would take some of us Western disciples to India. And then he would give classes in the morning in English and in the evening in Hindi. So the devotees would come with Prabhupada, and they would come in the evening for the Hindi classes. But then when Prabhupada would start speaking with Hindi, they would get up and start going, because they didn't understand Hindi. Prabhupada said, "Where are you going? Sit down." Just hear. The sound vibration is pure. You just hear, you'll get benefit, even if you don't understand the language. So that's an interesting point. That's what it says here from the Bhagavatam, that even if it's composed not perfectly, still it has transcendental effect, because it is about the nature of the Supreme Personality of God. It is His name, His forms, His qualities, His pastimes. All of these, the Bhagavatam, Sitam Prasangam Mamavirya Samvido Bhavati Ritkarna Rasayana Kata. Not only that Kata, but it's Rasayana Kata. That Kata that is sweet. What is it? Where does the sweetness go? To Rit and Karna, to the heart and to the ear. The heart and the ear becomes charmed, the mind becomes enlightened, the soul becomes illuminated, and then one starts to realize and become happy hearing about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whether it's with His names or qualities or any aspect of the Supreme Lord, that hearing process is so powerful. Nowadays, for the sake of transcendental communication, we write so many books, right? We also speak. But Veda, knowledge, means Shruti. Another name for Veda is Shruti, that knowledge which is heard. Before 5,000 years ago, knowledge was transmitted through guru to disciple, or guru to followers. There were no books. And people were sharp, or at least their memories were much better than what they are now. Now our memories are somewhat lost due to the effects of Kali Yuga. That means it's decreased. And so when the disciple would hear from the guru, you could ask him anything about what he heard and he could tell you. He could remember everything. Prabhupada tells one story about one Brahmana. Two people were fighting, and one Brahmana was taking bath. They were near one kund, and they were fighting by the bank of the kund. So the one Brahmana was there, and he was just taking his bath. He had nothing to do with the people who were fighting. So these two people were fighting, and then the thing went to court. And so they were arguing who was right, and the judge was listening. But then one of them said, well, there was a Brahmana. He was right nearby. We should call him. So they did. So they found the Brahmana. He came. He said, I don't know what they were saying, but this is what they said. In other words, he didn't know the reason behind it, but he was able to repeat whatever they said to each other. And so he was just simply there. So people's minds and memories were so sharp that they could remember everything. And that was prior to the last 5,000 years. Now, because people, manda sumanda mateo manya bhaga upadritaha, the tendency of memory and the ability to repeat what is heard has been reduced by the effects of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is just an ocean. Kalir dosha nidhi rajan asti, kalir dosha nidhi. Dosha nidhi. Nidhi means ocean. Dosha means faults. This age, there's so many disturbances, so many problems. This is the nature of this age. The 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, also in the 11th canto, you'll find descriptions of the qualities of the age of Kali. It just destroys all of the good qualities of the human beings as time goes on. And one of them is the hearing process. So one should be very enthusiastic to hear from the right source and hear with rapt attention. So you might say, wow, rapt attention, that's not easy. Sorry, Bo. Rapt attention means, well, I'm listening, but the scriptures describe that only you can hear with rapt attention if you're pure in mind. It says that. Only you can hear with rapt attention, full attention, absorbed attention, if you're pure in mind. And in order to be pure in mind, you have to be pure in action. In order to be pure in action, you have to be pure in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. In other words, you have to regulate these bodily activities to the bare minimum. Then the mind becomes able to remember and hear nicely. But then Prabhupada goes on to say, very concessionary, just hear. Even if you haven't reached that point of regulating or haven't reached the point of pure in mind, just try to hear. So hearing's an effort. It really requires, focus. And if we practice that more and more, then we can remember everything that we hear nicely, because due to the effects of Kali Yuga, memory is somewhat disturbed or somewhat diminished. But through the hearing process, our minds become very attuned to the sound vibration. And hearing means remembering, or hearing leads to chanting, chanting leads to remembering, and remembering actually is the goal of Krishna consciousness, to remember Krishna. It says that in the Srimad Bhagavatam that simply by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can associate with the Lord directly through the process of remembering about the Lord. It's very direct, very powerful. But it all starts from the hearing process. As Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport, that if we continue to hear nicely, then that hearing process becomes strong, and then we're serving, we're worshiping, we're offering prayers, we're chanting. Whatever we're doing in bhakti becomes successful because of the hearing process. So hearing, out of all of the 9 processes, is the foundation that connects with all of the other 8 processes like that. So that's why, as Prabhupada said, it's mentioned first. To hear about Krishna, to hear about the process of devotional service, to hear about how we can make advancement towards the goal of life, Prema Pumartha Maha, in devotional service. So this hearing is very, very important. As Prabhupada said, it's considered to be the most important aspect of the hear. Okay, so we can speak a little bit more about hearing, but I thought since there's so many devotees here, there might be some questions. So maybe we can open it up for questions and see how much time we can allot. Okay, we got a question way in the back. Mataji, do we have a microphone that runs around? This is a long way, so it might get there. You can yell, but I won't be able to hear you. My hearing is not that good for hearing. Speak nice and slow.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for this eye-opening class. And I had heard about this years back. I think it was in 2000, where you had given a seminar on Shishtashtakam in the year 2000. That's where I'd attended that class. And from that time onwards, I did develop a taste for hearing Krishna Katha. Now, since I am preaching to young girls, most of the girls will come and ask me, Mataji, I like to hear Krishna Katha very much, but I'm not interested much in chanting. How do I explain to them?
Well, there's different ways to answer that question. It says that if you perfect one of the 9 angas, that's enough for full Krishna conscious. But I'll tell you a story, which is not a story, but a factual experience that I had. I was preaching in Germany, and I was there at one temple. Temple president called me in. He said, Maharaj, I need some advice. I have this very wonderful pujari. She comes very early every day, and she's expert. She does her service very nicely. She decorates the deity very nicely. She's always on time. She's clean. But she doesn't chant. So what should I do? Well, and she says, the girl, she says that, and says here that if you, any one of the 9 processes can give you perfection in devotional service, so she quotes that. But if you read a few pages ahead, you get to one point where Prabhupada says, Therefore, even if one is able to perform other processes of devotional service, one must adopt the chanting of the holy name as the principal method of advancing in spiritual life. So, although he says each one is powerful enough to give perfection, he makes this extra statement to give us the understanding that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us the Yuga Dharma, which Harinam Sankirtan. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalo, Kalo Nasteva, 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 and Anita. So we don't try to force people, but we try to convince them by their intelligence that actually, if you include the chanting along with your hearing, the quality of your hearing will also increase. And your enthusiasm for hearing will also increase. So if you can somehow communicate that in such a way that they can understand, and just say, you can use yourself as the example. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we have one hand over here. Right there. Okay. The microphone, is it coming? Just now coming.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, you're next.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a wonderful lecture. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for wonderful lecture. Maharaj, my question is this: ki how to develop full faith on the speaker, because mind is always find fault in the speaker.
How to develop full faith in?
Mind always finds fault with the speaker.
How to develop full faith? Well, you have to see if that speaker is speaking according to Shastra, Guru, Krishna. So if they're not repeating what Krishna says, what the spiritual master is presenting, what the acharyas from the previous ages have said, then he's not authorized. We may have a particular attraction for a certain type of person who speaks in a certain way, and then we get attracted to that. That's natural. But if someone is speaking something, even if you're not so much attracted to the way he presents it, there's always something that you can learn from there. There's always something you can take away. Even if you take away one point and apply that to your Krishna consciousness, then that hearing was beneficial. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I mean, devotees have different personalities. So some people will, when they speak, their personality is entwined with the speaking. And therefore, we're attracted to certain personalities, and maybe we're not so attracted to other types of personalities. That's just the way life is. But we try to get beyond that and just listen to what is being said. That's where you'll benefit. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay. And okay, after, I'm not good at choosing. Maybe you should choose who's next. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for this very wonderful class. Maharaj, one question I like to ask: how can we improve the quality of our hearing, and also then apply what we have heard in our lives? Because so many classes we keep on hearing, but we don't really think that we have applied them in our life to improve our Krishna conscious life in that way. And how can we actually then get that into the consciousness, so to actually see the world around with spiritual vision?
One of the ways is also when, after you hear, try to go and write down some of the points that you heard. That way you can refer back to them. That way your memory will become stronger and you'll be able to remember and apply some of the knowledge you heard. So writing down is also good. Writing down while one's speaking is sometimes a little bit distracting because you miss some of the other things if you're writing when you're speaking. But if you can write down later, or another thing, just like I was in New Vrindavan, and the devotees used to fall asleep in class. Everybody. The whole class. Even the speaker. I'm not exaggerating here. Because we were on a farm, we were working hard, and so devotees were tired, so we'd sit down and relax. Sometimes we say there's two mantras, one for going to sleep and one for waking up. The one for going to sleep is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And the one for waking up is Series-1. So, we have our tendencies. So what we used to do to prevent devotees from going to sleep in class, we made it a requirement that every devotee in the class would have to ask another devotee somehow during the day, what did they say in class? And that would help you remember and also stay alert in class to pick up what was being said. So you can ask another devotee, what did you hear? What did you realize? Or you could even speak to someone talking about what you understood. So that brings back the memory of that katha. That helps. Bodhyantas parasparam katyantas chamam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. Discussing what we hear, like that. Yeah. Okay, you have to choose.
Maharaj, a follow-up question on that.
Where are we?
No, I wanted to ask a follow-up question on that.
Oh, wait, you can come, we'll come back to you.
Sure, no.
Is the follow-up question connected with the first question? Okay, go ahead.
Then Maharaj, when we try to apply and write down also, then how can we then apply that in our lives? Because we hear a lot of things and we hear that we are not the body but the soul, but we have heard this thousands of times, but we have not been able to realize that and even discuss that and even give sessions on that.
Yeah, therefore, if you hear enough times of the same point, you start to understand it. First is hearing, second is understanding. Before you can apply it, you have to understand it. So therefore, hear sufficiently until you get some understanding, or ask someone, what does it mean, so you get an understanding. Once you understand it, then you can see how you can use it in your Krishna consciousness. When you get that, after you apply it, then you get realization. Realization is the fourth step. The fifth step is you get transcendental happiness, you get skills, you get abilities, you get good qualities. So these are the 5 stages from hearing. But understanding has to follow hearing. If you don't understand it, read it again. I'll give you an example. How many of you are familiar with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's purport on, what is it called? Brahma Samhita. You familiar with that? Brahma Samhita purports, Bhakti Siddhanta. I mean, if you read it, you have to be like a professor in English. Very highfalutin English. So Prabhupada gave us that book with his spiritual master's purport. So devotees couldn't understand it. So they said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, can you write a commentary on what your spiritual master... Prabhupada said no. He said, if you want to understand, read it over and over and over again. It's not about how much you read, it's how much you understand what you read. That's important. So if you read something over and over, it becomes clearer each time you read it. Yeah, the mind will pick up on it through repetition. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and choose someone.
Maharaj, sometime like HareKrishna Maharaj.
Where are you? Okay.
Like in the initial state of Krishna consciousness, like when you once like essentially the principle remains same. So sometime in classes, what happens is when you hear those principles again, mind like tend to wander here and there, and it tend to become bored out of class, and it's not able to focus, and you lose the humbleness and all. So what to do in those situations?
Pray. If you're becoming bored, that means I don't know, that means you're not interested in what's being said. If you have some interest, you won't be bored. And if you're sitting down to hear, so you should understand it. I may not understand it and may not be so, what we say, enthusiastic for my hearing process, but I can benefit from it. I can get some spiritual benefit, I can get some practical understanding. So we have to somehow defeat the mind by higher knowledge. The mind will say what it wants to say, but then we have to use the words of the scriptures, the words of the spiritual master, to push back the voice of the mind. If we always listen to our mind, then it's called manodharma. We're being led around by the mind. We have to be led around by the intelligence, which is a feature of the mind, but then the intelligence has to be connected to knowledge or truth. So learning what's there from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and using that to apply and defeat the mind when the mind wants to, go away from the hearing process. But you just have to be enthusiastic to bring the mind back, that's all. And the mind is like that. That's why Arjuna said it to Krishna. Krishna agreed, but he said if you practice, you can become successful. He didn't say what happened immediately. He said practice.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Where are we?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Oh, okay.
Maharaj, can you please elaborate on what is the subject matter about which we need to hear? Like there are so many subject matters.
What is the subject matter of?
Of hearing.
What is the subject matter of hearing?
Yes, Maharaj. Means about which subject matter we should hear. There is.
Yeah, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Krishna Smaranam. Hear, chant, and remember the glories of Krishna. Hear about Krishna, hear about the pastimes of the Lord, hear about the names of the Lord, hear about His qualities, hear about His devotees. These are all subject matters of hearing.
Maharaj, also, how should one choose the speaker from one to whom to hear?
Well, sometimes you don't have a chance to choose. I'm sure I didn't get a very big vote, but here I am anyway. So the point is, if you're looking to hear then you have to see who's speaking and what is the topic and see if that will be beneficial for you. But the thing is, anything about Krishna or devotional service is beneficial. I gave the example of Prabhupada. He spoke in Hindi, and the devotees didn't know anything about Hindi, but he said, if you hear, the mind will become purified simply by hearing the sound vibration. So choose, but hear. But don't spend all day just choosing. You got to make a choice and then hear. Reading is also hearing, but hearing is hearing, reading is hearing. Both are there. Yes. Okay. Where's our selector?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Here.
Hare Krishna. Actually, I heard that you have written about fourfold Varnashram system in your books.
Where are we? Raise your hand. Okay.
Okay. So you have written about fourfold Varnashram system in your notebooks, like books and something. So in your sound off, is it okay to apply Varnashram system in today's society? Because people say that Varnashram system, or Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita about casteism and all these things, because it promotes casteism. So is it like in your sound of, is it correct to apply one ashram system in today's society?
Well,
Seeing the casteism increasing and,
it's in line with Srila Prabhupada's vision for propagating Krishna consciousness in the world, but it's Daivi Varnashram. It's not just material Varnashram. Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra are qualities, but engaging those qualities in the service of the Lord makes it Daivi or spiritual. That's Prabhupada. He didn't want just qualified people in different categories of the Varnashram. He wanted people to engage that propensity in the service of the Lord. So serve the Lord as a Brahmana, doing Brahminical service. Serve the Lord from the point of view of a Kshatriya, be managers, be martialists, martial artists. Serve the Lord in the form of Vaishyas, by keeping cows, by doing agriculture, trading, banking, like that. So it's all based on service, devotional service. It's not just... Because Prabhupada, in the beginning of his preaching in the West, up until 1974, he said, forget about Varnashram. He said, society is too topsy-turvy, you can't do it. But in 1974, he changed, and he came out with a whole different understanding. He said, if chanting Hare Krishna is so easy, why are devotees falling down? He said, now we have to establish Varnashram. And then his program was to create a college where those who are Brahminically inclined, in a collective sense, would be teaching all of the other Varnas, the different activities of those Varnas, including Brahminical. And then they would be teachers, and then there would be evaluations based on the teaching, and then designations, and then engagements in certain types of service according to a person's nature. Because we have different natures. And this is called one's swadharma. And Krishna says it in the Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarnya mayastrishat guna karma vibhagasaha. Yeah. So he said, I created this system. But in the material world now, it's not practical. But we can do it in the spiritual circles and direct all of the activities towards devotional service. And that way we have both the social and the spiritual systems working hand in hand in an ideal way. And when people are working according to their nature, they can do really wonderful service. So that's somewhat of a summary of Prabhupada's idea for the future of the ISKCON movement. Yeah. Is that you need further clarification on that, or?
Oh, I'll try to read your book and then I'll ask you questions if
Okay,
something is
thank you.
relevant. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I had
But we got at least 3 or 4 ladies in the back there. Let's see.
send the mic, Mataji's.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Can you stand up? Mhm. Are you standing? Okay, there you go. Thank you. Now I can see you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your wonderful class. Please accept my most humble and respectful obeisances onto your lotus feet as servant of your servant. Maharaj, you talked about sound vibrations. Even though we don't know the language, vibration will help us to clear our heart. So my question is, online hearing is more effective or offline?
Online hearing is what?
Online hearing is more effective or offline hearing?
Online hearing or offline hearing?
Which is more effective? Which sound vibration is more effective?
Well,
Online?
if you're hearing online, you should be online, and if you're hearing offline, you should be online. So yeah, in any way, stay connected to the sound vibration. That's the important part.
And Maharaj, I have a second question that how much repeated we should hear, because once we hear, all the information is stored in our mind. So in second time hearing, mostly interest loosens. So
Let me
how
see.
to cultivate?
I'm not catching all of the words. If you speak slow, I got it.
Okay. So Maharaj, my question is how to hear repeatedly with the same interest, because once we hear, all the information is stored in our mind. So second time, third time, how to hear with the same interest?
How to hear with the same interest?
Yes.
Well, interest develops by the process of hearing. When you're hearing, you get interested in what you're hearing. And if you understand it's beneficial, then automatically you'll be interested in it.
My question is how to cultivate interest in repeated hearing of the same topic. Because you said we should hear repeatedly.
Hearing repetition of the same thing?
Yeah.
But because it helps us to go deeper into that knowledge you're hearing. Just like how many times have we heard, you're not this body. But if you hear it enough time, and you're also practicing, you'll start to realize, oh yes, yeah, I know, now I understand. I'm not this body, I'm something else. So this knowledge, as Srila Prabhupada said, I put all of the knowledge of Bhakti Yoga in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But then he said, the rest of the cantos is simply a repetition in different ways of the same knowledge that's there in the first canto. So repetition is actually the success of one's realization in Krishna consciousness. That's why we say, chant, but keep chanting, just don't stop chanting. The more you chant, the more you purify yourself, the more you get the realization of the chanting. Same with reading, same with hearing.
And Maharaj, for successful chanting, how much repeatedly we should hear? 5 times, 10 times, or 15 times? Any like this?
15 times 15. There's no limit. Just keep hearing.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Yeah. And if you become expert at one subject matter, and then you can preach that and change people's heart. There's people who like to collect knowledge, and they collect all knowledge. They like to read all kinds of books and get all kinds of ideas. But it says, what does it say? What is it? What is that saying? Jack of all trades, but expert at nothing. If you become expert at one thing in Krishna consciousness, whatever it is, then that can be a very powerful force, not only in your own self-realization, but to help others to understand also. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Where are we?
Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question was, one of the points you mentioned was hearing as it is. But many times we tend to hear according to the condition of our mind.
Right.
Like we tend to accept or take.
Filtering process.
Yes, Maharaj. So how do we hear as it is so we are able to benefit the most?
Try to understand what's being said rather than filter it through our own ideas. That's one of the 4 principles that I mentioned. And that principle was humility. So be like a sponge to absorb rather than trying to debate it within your mind as you're hearing it. Try to hear. The principle is humility, receptivity.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Just practice. You have to practice. It's all practice. It's all about practice. There's one gentleman here. Yeah, he's had his hand up for the last 2 days, I think. He's very patient. Okay.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna. Haribol.
Oh, we're still at the Mataji ashram. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Where are you?
Uh,
I can't see anything.
actually, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Actually, my question is, as we know, the faith of Srila Prahlad Maharaj. Sorry, I could not understand and ask. Actually, my question is about the faith. How, Prahlad Maharaj was, because in every obstacle he could remember Lord Vishnu,
Right.
and in that case, Supreme Personality of Godhead used to come and help him. So, how we should develop that level of faith, so that
Well, that's based on advancement. You can't. Faith is the foundation by which all knowledge comes, but it's gradual. As you're understanding and practicing, your faith should increase. And when you talk about Prahlad Maharaj, he's a Mahabhagavat. That means his faith is complete. All he had to do was remember Krishna with love, and Krishna was there. We can remember Krishna, but we can't remember Krishna continuously. But if you practice, it becomes easier to remember Krishna. If you have faith simply by remembering Krishna, all success comes in your devotional life. That faith will inspire you to remember Krishna more and more.
thank you.
Practice. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yeah, pass the mic forward. You have to do the picking now, after this gentleman.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, my question is, when we read Prabhupada books, it seems contradictory. It seems to the Lilamrit sometimes some aspects like, for example, when Prabhupada gave initiation, he said, eat only prasad cooked by devotees. But in some cases, Prabhupada was not so strict, like when he was in Jhansi. It's,
Right.
So we are confused, and different devotees will take different aspects and preach. So we
Yeah.
are confused what Prabhupada wants from us, how strict we should be.
You have to understand things according to time, place, and circumstance. Just like there was one devotee who was preaching in Russia, and he wrote to Prabhupada, he said, there's nothing to eat here. There's only meat. Prabhupada said, eat meat but preach. So he put the preaching ahead of the principle of, abstaining from meat. But we can't just do that and expect that we can just adjust things. It has to be done in compliance with the spiritual master's teachings. And therefore, many times we have to inquire, how do I act in this situation? And if you don't know, or you can't find any source to get information, it requires intelligence. It requires sincerity. I want to do the right thing. Not that I want to do the easy thing. The mind will sometimes opt for the easy thing. Just like Prabhupada would say, he's talking about Lord Ramachandra. There's some place in the Ramayana where it says that Lord Ram ate some meat. I can't remember where. But Prabhupada's talking about that. So people say, well, we can eat meat because Lord Ram ate meat. But then Prabhupada said, well, Lord Ram can eat the whole world. Can you do that? Lord Shiva smokes ganja. Yeah, so I'm a Shivite. But Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison too. Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill, but he danced with 16,000, so many gopis. So people say, well, Krishna danced with girls, we can do that. Well, go ahead and lift Govardhan then. So people want to imitate the great souls. Tejas Samarajasaya. The great souls are powerful. They follow rules and regulations for the sake of teaching others. But in certain cases, when it's required, they may not follow for a higher principle. And it's usually the higher principle is preaching. Sometimes for preaching, they dispense with the rules for the sake of preaching. But we can't imitate that. Does that help?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Maharaj, one question I had.
You have.
Maharaj, Prabhupada has given so many books for us. Many times devotees in today's world, they are into YouTube. And there are many other speakers. Some are in ISKCON, many are outside ISKCON also. So what is your guidance, Maharaj? How much they should keep Prabhupada book as the percentage of their taking in?
When you're married, one of the qualities of married life is chastity. Being chaste to one's partner. Chastity is considered to be a very exalted quality. So when you are connected to Srila Prabhupada, you should be chaste to Prabhupada and not just run around and find something else somewhere else. That means you really don't have enough faith, or you think you can learn something outside. Bhakti Tiru Swami dealt with this very directly, where he gave many talks about Srila Prabhupada gave us everything. It's just a matter of trying to understand and do enough research, and you'll find anything on any subject, Srila Prabhupada covered it. And that's a fact. I had personal experience with certain things that were being adjusted that weren't authorized adjustments, but the persons who were adjusting were giving reasons why this was good and superior to what we were doing. And we went along with it. But later on we found out Prabhupada made statements directly against what was being adjusted. But we didn't know it at the time. So you have to, we have to really read Srila Prabhupada's books, hear from Prabhupada or hear from Prabhupada's representatives, and then you gain. That way you won't be fooled by hearing from outside. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. This is beautiful.
Yeah. Someone had a question right here. Yeah. Okay. What time should we go to? Huh? I can go all day, but I don't think it's good for breakfast, though. You have to take breakfast after this? Yeah, so.
HareKrishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
When you're hearing or trying to understand some concept or subject, some preconceived notions strikes up. How to put them aside?
When you hear something and you're not sure of what it is, how to deal with it? Is that the question?
No. When you're hearing or trying to understand some subject, some preconceived notions strikes up in your mind.
Yeah.
How to put them aside?
Just put them aside. That's all. If you realize they're preconceived ideas, you think, well, they're just going to interfere with my understanding, so put them aside. There's just sometimes we just have to say no to the mind, that's all. Yeah, just like, okay, you're on top of a building and you're high up and you're looking down, the mind says, jump. So, put it aside, or you're going to be in a different situation. So there's the intelligence and then there's the mind. The intelligence is superior than the mind, so adopt the proper intelligence, and that way you can push aside all of the thoughts of the mind that are preconceived and what we say not relevant. You have to sharpen the intelligence, otherwise we'll be defeated by the mind. Anything else? Yes, over here by the pole there. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Where are we? Oh, okay. You're next after.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is that when Krishna spoke Bhagavad to Arjuna, then that time Sanjay and rest also heard. But there are some Sanjay and Dhritarashtra.
And Dhritarashtra.
Yes. But Arjuna and Sanjay, they applied the Bhagavad Gita. So what are the factors that Dhritarashtra not applied in his when he heard the Bhagavad Gita? The changes not come in Dhritarashtra just because he has not faith, or what?
I missed some of the words. Did you get it? Oh, why didn't Dhritarashtra get transformed? This is called Hriday Labdhya, weakness of the heart. He heard from Krishna, he heard from Vidura, who was his well-wisher and brother, but he was so attached to his family, couldn't hear. He became so attached to his family members that he even said to Krishna, Krishna, I know what you're saying is right, but I can't follow it. He said that. Sometimes people, they know this is the right thing to do, but the attachment is so strong that they can't follow the right thing. People read the package of the cigarettes. It says if you smoke, and they have it on the side of the package, you get emphysema, lung cancer, complications in pregnancy, so many serious diseases you can get from smoking. But still people smoke. It even says smoking kills, but still people smoke. Why? Because they're attached. So yeah, these material attachments can go so deep that even good advice is rejected. That therefore, the only way they can get out of that is by associating with people who can change them. They need direct association with people who are their well-wishers. Sometimes they experience suffering in their attachments, and then they wake up a little bit. But usually even suffering doesn't change them. Dhritarashtra said to Krishna at the end of the battlefield, he said, Krishna, I was born blind. I had 100 sons. They were all killed. So what was my karma? Krishna said, you were a hunter in a previous life. No, he said 50 lives ago, 50 lives ago you were a hunter and you shot an arrow, fiery arrow, into a nest of birds. There was 100 birds in the nest. They all died of the fire, and the mother bird got away where she was blinded. So Dhritarashtra said, 50 lives? Krishna said, yes. In order to have a son, it takes good karma. So it took you 50 lives to build up enough good karma, and then your karma crashed in. Cashed in. Yeah, so yeah. So a lot of times people are attached because of previous lives. We carry these attachments to the present life. They become very strong. So the only process is to really sit down and hear seriously from someone who can they can learn something, purify something. But generally it takes a while to break attachments. But if you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra seriously, then you can break your attachments fast. That's the fast track. Okay? Yes, over there. Okay, yeah.
Hare Krishna.
You can also go.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class, Maharaj. My question.
Can you stand up? Yeah. Thank you. So I can see you now. Okay. When I see you, I can hear you better.
Thank you for the wonderful class. My question was related to the selective hearing, which most of the questions were about.
Right.
So my question is, at times we are trying to improve on one particular quality, and we try to apply everything what we hear to sort of improve that one particular quality. So is that also out of the aspects of humility?
No, that's acceptable. If the quality is something beneficial, something that you can use in devotional life, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj was saying that to be here by the rapt attention, then one should be pure in mind, then in activity, then in eating, sleeping. So Maharaj, like in my case, like in my life, so many times we see that some devotees sleep for less hour. Then also they are like senior devotees. Like we hear in philosophy, as person advanced, then the eating and sleeping reduces. So how should a sadhaka practically understand what is his level? And many times some service came in.
You mean for eating and sleeping? To understand your level for eating and sleeping?
Yeah.
Don't eat too much. Don't eat too little. What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? One who eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or doesn't sleep enough, cannot perform the yoga system. So find your level. You have to find it. Nobody's going to find it for you.
Maharaj, some service come in the night, so we may tend to like go late in the night, and that day like chanting any lecture we like do this. So what person should like practically do in his life to reduce that?
Well, Krishna consciousness is balance, learning how to balance the activities in our daily life. But sometimes when it comes to activities in devotional service, we put a little extra emphasis and we get a little out of balance. So too much Krishna consciousness is okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we should, I was asked to end here. So if you have some questions, we'll be here tomorrow. You can continue with some questions, and tomorrow we'll do Kirtan. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So you can understand from the valuable wisdom, loaded wisdom, every word was so valuable for us. It's a great benediction that we have our youth camp, and Maharaj kindly agreed to come and grace us and give this such a valuable wisdom which has come from his very sincere practice of Krishna consciousness, decades, 5 decades, more than 5 decades. So we are very, very just honored to have Maharaj, and Maharaj is going to speak on Kirtan, and Maharaj's Guru Puja Kirtans are some things that will remain with you for a whole lifetime and beyond. So we pray that sometime we get that. Also, you will be don't miss Guru Pujas after this, They're very, very special. And every day we'll get some wisdom on each of these processes. This is actually, Radhashampu would be very, very happy to hear that on each of these processes Maharaj is speaking. So we are very honored to have Maharaj speaking on these verses. Let's thank Maharaj by loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj ki jai. So, as I mentioned before the class, there are books. So, Maharaj has written on Varnashram, Krishna's Way, Natural Living. So, that is for rupees 350. Then we have 2 books on prison ministry preaching, Forbidden Voices and Holy Jail. Each of them are for 500 rupees. Then there is a diary, a traveling diary of Maharaj, Travel Diary Europe and India, which is another wonderful book. You can take benefit. That is for rupees 500. And there are 2 more books filled with realizations of Maharaj, Daily Drops of Nectar, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Each of them is for 400 rupees. So if you wish to take, you can take. Maharaj, right now he has to go for his service to the deities. So after this, you may not get a signature, autograph from Maharaj. But in case you wish to have, then you can submit it to, you can submit the book with your name in as a chit to his guest Nayak Sakha Prabhu, and he will get it done from Maharaj. He will request Maharaj, and then he'll give back the book to you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So it's 9:50 now. We'll come back at 11:05 for our camp program. Hare Krishna. Just 1 minute. If someone has found a phone, lost and found some phone, you can please give it to the sound system.
Hare Krishna, those devotees who are here for the vow taking process, please be seated here. Others, please leave the temple hall immediately, because we have another program here scheduled. So if somebody wants books, they can come this side to buy. But if you are not buying the book, then you please leave the hall immediately. And those who have come to take the vows for related to the initiation, please stay on in this temple hall. कौन सा मोबाइल है बाबा?